All right, Dawson, let's take a look at your essay. So, starting off with your hook right away, mass hysteria in society comes and goes with trends in pop culture. This is an okay hook. I think it's okay. Um, I think there's ways you could definitely introduce the paper a little bit better, but it's an interesting component to say that mass hysteria builds upon pop culture and some things going on, and I think there's some truth to that. So I think that's an interesting topic to go on. So kids find something funny or clever on the internet and decide for themselves to repeat it. Um, and then right here, you slip into the first person. You want to avoid that. Keep it strictly in third person. Just straight out say, as a result of popular culture, media is a potent driving force in mass hysteria. That would be better. Although when you repeat it, you don't need to capitalize mass hysteria. It's not a proper noun. You do not need to repeat it. And then you talk about examples that could be seen, which is okay because you're tying in examples to your thesis. You want to make this not capitalized as well, and should not be capitalized. Excuse me. And the fact that the group most affected by mass hysteria is, this should just say is children and teens. You don't need N because you already have the group most affected. It's not as in children, because then you're saying the group is within, like inside children and teens, which doesn't quite make sense. So you need to make sure that you have that cleared up. And then when you have this which, you want to make sure you have a comma before it. And this is the part that I'm going to throw back at you, which also happens to be the group most exposed to the media. I don't know if this is necessarily true, and I'm going to give you a little bit of pushback with this in a strictly unbiased way, because while they may use social media more often, you're kind of equating social media to being the only form of media, because media also extends to newspapers and radio and television and all sorts of things. So I don't think this is the best way to address it. So that's the thing I'm going to give you pushback on. But overall, your thesis is okay. I think your introduction should spend a little bit more time building up what mass hysteria is. But right now, what you have is okay. So first, the Charlie Challenge. Trend spread like wildfire. Sent teens to the hospital. Um, you explain what it is, and then you explain it some more, and then you explain it one last time, but then you say, which gave many a scare, which resulted in mass hysteria prompted by the internet. So you have the capitalization with mass hysteria that you want to get rid of, but you don't quite have analysis here. I think you do a good job setting up the example and explaining it, but the problem is you need to write a little bit more about how this challenge was influenced by the media, and even take it a few sentences, be like, Charlie challenge spread through its hashtag, because you do have spread like wildfire throughout the internet, but specifically talk about how this challenge originated through media, and then media kept spreading it, and then as a result, these sorts of things are happening. Because overall, you have a good example here in the body paragraph, but you just need to add a little bit more of that uh, analysis component to it. And as I look at your paper, okay. So, anyways, and then you move on to another example, the Pokemon Panic, which struck in Japan. I think the main grammar thing is this capitalization concern I see. So, watch a certain episode of the show for reasons unknown. You have a spacing concern here. You have a double space. This needs to be one. These strange occurrences happen. Episode doesn't air, and the situation is spread through the media, in this case being a television program which affected a large quantity of people, almost all from the same age group, child through teen. And actually, let me go back and explain this. So, the reason I wouldn't say, this was the second reason about children and media being affected by mass hysteria, is because whether you like it or not, mass hysteria did exist before media, but you could still totally take the position that it's more potent in creating it. It's just then, the sentence doesn't work, because if you bring up Salem witch trials, you've already said that this group is affected because they are exposed to media. But then how do you explain that in the Salem witch trials? But regardless. I think, again, you can use some more analysis here to explain it. Talk about how media has affected them and how it produces. Actually, one thing that would be interesting is, well, you have these physical convulsions or these physical things that are happening as a result of media, and I think you just need to spend more time with it. Otherwise, move into your next body paragraph. Last, the group most affected by mass hysteria is in children and teens, which also happens to be the group most exposed to the media. Okay, so everything I just said, this is going to come full circle right here. Every time a new trend or challenge starts to appear, especially on the internet, kids and teens worldwide know about it and partake in it. You know what? I will agree with that. I think that it's mostly them who do it. And then, along with that, once one person starts claiming something happened to them, people get spooked and start thinking they have been possessed or affected by whatever claimed to have happened. So overall, let's take a look at your body paragraphs. So what you need in your body paragraphs would be one or two preferred examples of things that support a claim with more analysis components to it. And I think that's what you're lacking in each of these, is you need to really have the analytical component of it. I think you're just kind of listing examples of it, and I think you can do more. And the other problem is your third body paragraph should be about the opposition. You talk about people who think it is human nature, and then you counter it with specific examples of your perspective and analyze it and what that should be. But anyways, with that in mind. And then your conclusion, media potent driving force, mass hysteria. Examples are seen in this and this. Mass hysteria was caused by anything other than media. There would be a much larger array of people affected, comma, as well as more cases. Alright, so here's what I need to challenge you with a little bit. I think you do a good job overall of using some evidence, but like I've been saying, you need to have some more analysis thrown in there. And then what I would also say, Dawson, is that you have a few cases and instances where I am pushing back on what you're saying, because literally the articles I gave you, I think there is a lot of examples of mass hysteria and people being affected of it. So this is kind of a hypothetical. Well, there would be a lot more cases if it was affected by anything other than the media, because you have to consider Salem witch trials weren't necessarily caused by the media. That is caused to a certain extent by human nature. So that's a good example where even if you had your opposition paragraph, start with that. You're like, people see this as human nature, and then throw in an example about how human nature propels things, and then you can even bring in, this didn't reach outside the parameters of Salem. I mean, it technically gets an and over a little bit, but other than that, it's not like it's spreading back to all the other places and provinces that are in the United States. So overall, Dawson, focus on your analysis. That is what is mostly needed. You also needed a paragraph that focuses on the opposing side a little bit. Hold on. Circled the wrong thing. But you do have some good details. I think it's just the analysis that's lacking. I think your introduction could use a little bit of reorganization with some of the things I talked about. But hopefully this will help you as you proceed. And if you would like to do a rewrite, hopefully it gives you a step in the right direction.